What if everything you've believed about yourself, your name, your memories, your identity, was nothing more than an illusion? What if the story of your birth and the inevitability of your death were part of a cosmic misunderstanding? You were never born and you'll never die. It sounds impossible, right? But stay with me. This isn't just a philosophical riddle. It's a key that unlocks the door to your true nature, a nature that's boundless, timeless, and beyond the limits of the mind. The idea of being unborn isn't about denying the body or the physical world. It's about seeing through the illusion of separateness, of believing that you are a limited individual, navigating an external universe. John Wheeler, a modern voice in non-duality, made this clear. You are not what you think you are. You are not a person trying to reach enlightenment. You are the awareness in which all things appear and disappear. Imagine waves crashing on the shore. Each wave seems distinct, separate. One rises, one falls, and another follows. But when you look deeper, you see there's no true separation between the wave and the ocean itself. In the same way, you are not a separate wave, but the infinite ocean. You have no beginning, no end, and nothing to lose. This is not a theory, it's something you can see for yourself right now. And over the next few minutes, we're going to peel back the layers of illusion, examine the nature of reality, and explore why the concept of you, the one you hold so tightly to, is the root of all suffering. So let's step beyond the mind and into the truth, because once you see it, you'll realize you were never born. And that's the most liberating discovery of all. Close your eyes for a moment and ask yourself, who am I? Your mind will immediately rush in with answers. I'm a parent, a teacher, an artist. I'm someone who loves, who struggles, who dreams. But pause for a moment and dig deeper. Who is the one saying these things? Who is it that calls these thoughts? Mine. This is where the illusion begins from the moment we're born. We're conditioned to believe in a separate identity, a me that stands apart from everything else. We're taught that this self is boundaries, that it starts with our skin and ends with the world outside. We carry this illusion like a badge, reinforcing it with every thought, every emotion, every action. But have you ever stopped to truly question it? Let's take a closer look. Imagine holding a cup of water. It's easy to think of the water as separate from the ocean, but if you pour it back into the sea, where does the water go? Can you pinpoint the exact moment when it stops being water in a cup and becomes ocean? The same is true for the self. What we think of as me, this bundle of thoughts, memories, and sensations, is like the water in the cup. It feels separate, but in truth, it has always been part of something infinite. Here's the problem. We believe so deeply in this separate self that we spend our lives defending it, nurturing it, and fearing its loss. We think this is my body, my mind, my life, but is it really? Think about it. Your body is constantly changing. The cells that make up your skin, your organs, even your brain, they're replaced over time. The body you have now is not the same body you had 10 years ago. So how can you say it's truly you? And what about your thoughts? They're fleeting, aren't they? One moment you're happy, the next you're sad. One moment you believe in something with all your heart, the next you've changed your mind. If your thoughts are constantly shifting, how can they define who you are? Let's go even further. Imagine a thought arises. I am afraid. Where is this fear located? Is it in your mind, your body? Or is it simply a passing sensation, like a cloud drifting across the sky? When you stop identifying with the thought, you'll notice something remarkable. It loses its power. John Wheeler puts it plainly. What you take yourself to be, this limited, struggling person, is nothing more than a concept, a story you've told yourself based on memories of the past and projections of the future. But who you truly are is none of these things. Your true nature is like the space in a room. The space doesn't change no matter what objects are placed within it. A chair, a table. Even people, they come and go, but the space remains untouched. You are that space. You are the awareness in which all experiences arise and dissolve. When you begin to see through this illusion of self, something extraordinary happens. You stop clinging to the stories of I am this or I am that. You realize that your true essence is boundless, limitless, and completely free. The illusion of self is not your enemy. It's simply a misunderstanding. And once you see through it, the world opens up in ways you never imagined. So take a breath, relax into the knowing that you are not the wave, you are the ocean itself, and this realization is just the beginning. Let's take a moment to ask the most profound question of all. Who are you really? You might answer, I'm a person, a mind, a body, a collection of experiences. But let's go deeper. Strip away the labels, the roles you play, and the stories you tell yourself. What remains? Start by considering your thoughts. Thoughts are like clouds in the sky, always changing, coming and going without warning. One moment you're thinking about dinner, the next you're replaying a conversation from yesterday. But here's the key question. Who is noticing these thoughts? Think about it. If you can observe a thought, you cannot be that thought. You're the one watching. And this awareness of your thoughts, this unchanging presence, has been with you your entire life. It's been there in moments of joy, in moments of pain, and even in the quiet gaps between your thoughts. Now turn your attention to your emotions. When anger arises, you might say, I am angry, but pause and look closely. Is the anger who you are? Or is it just an energy passing through you like a storm moving across the sky? It's intense for a time, but eventually it fades, and yet the sky, the space in which the storm appears, remains untouched. You are not the anger. You are the sky. What about your body? It seems like such an obvious part of who you are, but even the body is not constant. Cells die and regenerate. Your appearance changes over the years. The body you inhabit today is not the same one you had as a child. So can it truly be you? And if you're not your body, your thoughts, or your emotions, then who are you? Let's try something radical. Stop looking for answers in the mind and turn your attention to awareness itself. Right now, as you listen to this, there's a knowingness, a presence that is aware of these words, aware of your surroundings, aware of your very being. This awareness is constant. It doesn't come and go, like thoughts or emotions. It doesn't age or change like the body. It's simply here, always silently witnessing everything. But awareness is not something you can grasp or hold on to. It's not an object you can point to and say, this is me, and yet it's undeniably present. You don't need anyone to tell you it's there. You can feel it here and now, as was the foundation of your existence. Here's another way to look at it. Imagine sitting in a dark room with a candle. The flame illuminates everything in the room, but it doesn't need to light itself. It's already shining. In the same way, awareness doesn't need to be aware of itself. It simply is. John Wheeler describes this awareness as your true nature, what you've always been and what you'll always be. It's not bound by your thoughts, emotions, or body. It's free, infinite, and ever-present. But what does this mean for you practically? It means you don't have to chase after enlightenment or a future state of being. The awareness you're seeking is already here. It's the part of you that has never changed, never suffered, and never been lost. Here's a simple exercise to see this for yourself. Take a moment to notice your breath. You don't need to control it. Just observe. Feel the air as it moves in and out. Now shift your attention to the awareness that is noticing the breath. This awareness is not doing anything. It's not trying to achieve or become anything. It's simply witnessing. And in this witnessing, you realize something profound. You are not a person experiencing awareness. You are awareness experiencing a person. When you see this clearly, the search for who you are comes to an end. You realize that your true nature is not something you have to find or create. It's something you've been all along. So take a deep breath. Rest in this awareness, this presence, and let everything else, the thoughts, the emotions, the roles you play, fade into the background. They're just passing waves. You are the ocean infinite, and still this is the heart of who you are. And once you see it, you can never unsee it. What does it mean to say you were never born at first glance? It seems absurd after all. You have memories of your childhood, a birth certificate, and photographs from when you were a baby. But what if these were merely parts of a story that doesn't define who you really are? The idea of being unborn is not about denying the physical reality of your body. It's about seeing through the illusion of separateness. It's an invitation to recognize a truth so profound that it challenges everything you've ever believed about yourself. Let's start here. The belief that you were born implies a beginning, doesn't it? A starting point where you came into existence as an individual. But here's the paradox. Your true essence has no beginning and no end. It wasn't born, and it cannot die. It is timeless, boundless, and unchanging. The belief in being born traps you in the illusion of being a limited, separate self, a self with a story, a name, and a past. But the truth is, you are not your story. You are the awareness in which the story unfolds. You are not a moment in time. You are the timeless presence that has always been here silently watching. Let's explore this further. When you were a child, your body was small, your thoughts simple, and your world limited to what you could see and touch. Over time, your body grew. Your thoughts became more complex and your experiences multiplied. But through it all, wasn't there something constant? That constant is the awareness that witnessed it all. It wasn't born with your body, and it won't end when your body dies. It's like the screen on which a movie plays. The images and sounds may change, but the screen itself remains untouched. Here's where this understanding becomes truly transformative. Most of our fears and struggles come from clinging to the idea of being a separate self, a self that was born, a self that will die, a self that can be hurt or lost. But when you see that this self is just a concept, an illusion, those fears dissolve. Think about it. If you were never truly born, how can you truly die if you've never been separate? What is there to lose? John Wheeler describes this as the ultimate liberation. You realize that what you are is not bound by time, space, or form. You are the awareness in which all of these things appear and disappear. And this awareness, your true essence, is free. It has no limits, no suffering, no birth, and no death. Here's a simple exercise to see this for yourself right now. Notice the thoughts in your mind. They rise and fall like waves, leaves. Now notice your awareness of those thoughts. Does your awareness rise and fall? Or does it remain constant with this? You've never been bound, you've never been limited, and you've never been born. You are the ocean, vast and infinite with no beginning and no end. The ego. It's the centerpiece of the story. You tell yourself it. Whispers, I am this, I am that. It claims ownership of your thoughts, your actions, and even your worth. But have you ever paused to ask, what is the ego really for most of us? The ego feels like the core of who we are. It's the voice in our head that narrates every moment of our lives. The 15 your memories, beliefs, and desires, but none of these things are constant. They come and go, and yet you remain. Think about it. If the ego were truly who you are, wouldn't it be constant? But it's not. One moment you're confident, the next you're doubtful. One moment you feel successful, the next you feel like a failure. The ego shifts and changes with every passing thought and emotion. And yet there is something within you that doesn't change, something that has been with you in every moment of find it anywhere. It's not a physical thing. It's not something you can touch, hold, or pin down. Then consider your mind is the ego. Your thoughts, perhaps it seems that way, but thoughts are transient. They arise, they linger for a moment, and then they dissolve. If you are your thoughts, then you would cease to exist every time a thought disappears, but you don't. Here's where it gets interesting. The ego's power lies in your belief in it. It's like a shadow, convincing but without substance. When you NGs are real, but the I who claims them is not. Here's another way to look at it. Imagine you're watching a movie. You get so absorbed in the story that you forget it's just a film. The ego is like that movie. It feels real because you're deeply invested in it. But when you step back and see it for what it is, you realize you're not the character on the screen. You're the one watching. John Wheeler reminds us that breaking the myth of the ego doesn't require effort or struggle. It's not about fig constant, always free. This awareness is your true self. It doesn't need a story, a label, or a past. It simply is. This is the truth that has been waiting for you all along. The ego was never real. You were never bound. And now you are free. Imagine for a moment living without the voice in your head that says, I am this, I am that. I need this, I fear that. Imagine a life where you are no longer bound by the limits of a separate self, where you move through the world with ease, free from the weight of ings, and avoid certain outcomes. But who is this you're defending? When you really investigate, you find it's just a collection of thoughts, a story you've believed in for so long that it feels real. But what happens when you step back from that story? Consider this right now. As you listen to these words, life is happening effortlessly. Your heart is beating, your lungs are breathing, and your mind is understanding these concepts. You didn't have to decide to make any of these things happen. They claiming to be independent from the sea, it's still just the ocean in motion, for example. Think about making a decision. Perhaps you agonize over it, believing that the outcome rests solely on your shoulders. But when you live without a separate self, you begin to see that decisions arise naturally, based on the situation without the need for a controlling ego. You might think you're choosing, but in reality the choice is simply happening. John Wheeler offers a liberating perspective, the idea of I-tool me at the center of your experience. Something extraordinary happens, the stress doesn't disappear, but your attachment to it does. You realize that the thoughts and feelings are just passing phenomena like clouds drifting across the sky. Living without a separate self doesn't mean life becomes perfect or free of challenges. It means you meet those challenges without the baggage of a false identity. If sadness arises, you feel it fully without labeling it as my sadness. If joy arises, you embrace its no me to defend the criticism loses its sting. It becomes just another event, like a leaf falling from a tree. This shift doesn't require effort, it's simply a matter of seeing clearly. The more you look, the more you realize that life flows effortlessly. When you let go of the illusion of control, the ego doesn't run the show, it never has. It's like a passenger on a train claiming credit for the journey. The train moves with or without its commentary. And here's the beauty of it: when you live wooing, the only thing that changes is your recognition of it. Life is not something you control, it's something you are. The river flows, the wind blows, and you are the awareness in which it all arises. Living without a separate self is not a goal to achieve. It's the truth of what you've always been. It's natural to feel doubt when encountering ideas that challenge the foundation of how you see yourself. The concept of having no separate self, of being unborn, can feel unsettling. Even contrary, your own feelings come and go. Actions happen spontaneously. When you look for the self who claims ownership of all these experiences, you find only an empty space, a vast, open awareness. Here's an analogy to help clarify this. Think of a whirlpool in a river. It looks distinct, separate from the water around it, but the whirlpool has no independent existence. It's simply the movement of the river itself. The same is true of the self. It appears distinct, but it's just the flow of life taking shape, aware of every movement. Your hands on the wheel, your feet on the pedals, but over time the process becomes natural, effortless. The car moves without you needing to think about every action. That's how life flows when you let go of the illusion of control. Here's another doubt you might encounter. If I'm just awareness, does that mean my life has no meaning? It's a question that strikes at the heart of our conditioning. We're taught that meaning comes from achieving, from being someone, from standing on being seen, on being validated. But when you look beyond the ego, you find that your true nature isn't small or insignificant. It's vast, boundless, and deeply connected to everything. John Wheeler explains this beautifully. The idea of a separate self is like a drop of water, imagining it's isolated from the ocean. But when the drop lets go of its boundaries, it doesn't disappear, it becomes the ocean. Letting go of the ego doesn't diminish you, it reveals your infinite nature. Finally, you don't try to own the waves or control them, you simply marvel at their beauty. Living without a separate self is like that. You experience life fully, without grasping, without resistance, without fear. So the next time doubt arises, don't push it away. Instead, welcome it as a teacher. Ask yourself, who is doubting, who is questioning? Look for the one at the center of the doubt, and you'll find that it's not there. The doubt itself dissolves in the clear light of awareness. Doubt is not your enemy. You've carried the roles you've played and the boundaries you've believed in. And now what remains? What remains is something so simple, so ever-present that it's often overlooked. It's the awareness that has been here all along. It's not something you need to create or find. It's what you've always been. This awareness is the ultimate truth of your being, but let's clarify this. Truth isn't about rejecting life or denying your experiences. It's about embracing the fullness of life without being bound. What does this mean for how you live? It means you no longer have to chase after meaning or run from fear. You don't have to cling to the past or worry about the future. Life becomes an unfolding moment by moment, free from the need to control or resist. Think about it: without the constant weight of the ego, you're free to live with lightness and openness. Relationships become richer because you're no longer defending a false identity. Challenges become opportunities because they're no longer titty peace, the freedom that comes from knowing what you are. This isn't something that will fade, it's the unchanging truth at the heart of your being. So as you go back into the world, carry this understanding with you, not as an idea but as a living truth. Let it guide your actions, soften your fears, and deepen your connections. Remember, you are not a person striving to find awareness. You are awareness itself, and that awareness is free. It has always been free. Thank you for